Risperidone Microspheres, same drug, same PLGA polymer, two different manufacturers, two completely different release profiles. One product plateaus at week 4, the other hasn't even started releasing yet. The formulator who built the second one didn't make a mistake, they made a choice and they didn't fully understand what they had chosen. Hello, I'm Raghuvar Singh Parmar, Director Scientific Affairs at Resolve Mass Laboratories, a Canadian CRO specializing in characterization and bioanalytical work for drug development teams navigating exactly these kind of challenges. Why release control matters for this kind of controlled release projects? Long-acting injectables exist for one reason: to keep patients on their therapy without asking them to remember a daily pill. That promise is entirely dependent on the drug release control. Too fast and you overshoot the therapeutic window. Too slow and you leave a patient undertreated for weeks, sometimes while still in an early clinical phase where every delay compounds. The lag phase, that initial period where the drug stays locked inside the polymer matrix, is not a side effect of the formulation, it is the formulation. A lag phase that runs 3 weeks longer than expected doesn't surface as a formulation note, it shows up as a clinical observation that takes months to trace back. And controlling it requires understanding 3 factors that most development teams either underweight or miss entirely until a release study catches them off guard. Polymer molecular weight, that's the factor 1. The first factor is polymer molecular weight. Higher polymer molecular weight PLGA degrades more slowly, which extends the release window, sometimes by weeks. Lower molecular weight polymers erode faster and release earlier. This sounds straightforward in textbook. In practice, what gets missed is how sensitivity the lag phase responds to even modest shifts in molecular weight distribution, not just the average. A team that specifies a target molecular weight but doesn't characterize the full GPC trace can build an variability they will never see coming until a release study fails at 3 months. That's a painful and expensive place to discover a polymer specification gap. Factor number 2 is lactide glycolide ratio, that is the second factor, L to G ratio. Increasing the lactide content makes the polymer more hydrophobic. Water penetrates more slowly, degradation slows, release extends. Shift toward more glycolide and the opposite happens. Faster water uptake, faster hydrolysis, earlier drug availability. This ratio is the formulator's primary tuning dial, but it is also where reverse engineering becomes genuinely difficult. Reference products rarely disclose it. Characterizing it requires enema and knowing what pattern in the spectrum you're actually looking for. We worked with a team that had spent months matching a reference product's particle size and encapsulation efficiency. Everything looked right, but their release profile kept diverging from the innovators. They were peaking nearly 3 weeks too early. When we ran the enema, the answer was right there. That polymer had a meaningfully different lactide to glycolide ratio than what the reference product's degradation behavior implied. Nobody had looked there because everyone assumed the polymer supplier's specification was sufficient. It wasn't. It rarely is actually. Factor number 3 is end group chemistry. The third factor is end group chemistry, and it is the one most likely to be overlooked entirely. PLGA polymers can be synthesized with either an acid end group or an ester end group. The acid terminated version is inherently more reactive towards hydrolysis. It degrades faster, it releases sooner. The ester capped version is more stable. The difference in release onset between these two configurations can span several weeks. From the same molecular weight, same Lg ratio, polymer looking identical on paper, FTIR and NMR together can distinguish them. Assuming they are equivalent because the supplier labels them both PLGA 7525 is a formulation risk that will surface later and almost never at a convenient time. Analytical tools. This is why the analytical framework around the PLGA characterization isn't optional, it's structural. GPC gives you molecular weight distribution, NMR gives you polymer composition, FTIR confirms end group chemistry, DSC reveals crystallinity and glass transition behavior, SEM shows you particle morphology. None of these tools works in isolation. The release profile you observe in dissolution experiment is the integrated outcome of all 5 parameters acting together. When a release study surprises you, the answer is almost always sitting in one of these data sets. If you know where to look, what to ask for data, and what a normal PLGA profile actually looks like. So if you are in the middle of a PLGA formulation development program right now, here are the 3 things worth pressure testing before you move to your next development stage. First, don't accept molecular weight as a single number. Characterize the full distribution. Second, don't assume your polymer's Lg ratio matches what's printed on the certificate of analysis. Verify it by NMR. And number 3, confirm end group chemistry explicitly, especially if you are switching between polymer suppliers or lots. These aren't exotic analytical requests, they are the difference between a predictable release profile and an unexplained 6-month detour. Long-acting injectables are among the highest stakes formulation challenges in drug development because the consequences of a poorly controlled release profile aren't just analytical, they are clinical. The polymer decisions made early in development define the release behavior you will be able to achieve at the other end of the program. If your team is working through PLGA formulation development or trying to close a characterization gap on an existing product, we are glad to have a look at what you have, and please reach out to our team and we would be happy to discuss with you. Thank you so much for watching this session until this.